You promised and you lied! Your fury was evident in your voice as you tried to keep from screeching at your boyfriend. Your broken heart was beating out of your chest, fist tightly clutching a newspaper article you'd picked up at the store that day. Usually, you didn't read the newspaper, but the title on this one caught your eyes. Hero Deku's spotted fighting villain in Tokyo. Izuku had been neglecting you lately, and he knew it. It was the whole reason you were on this trip. He'd become so obsessed with his hero walk that he'd completely ignored you for the last couple months. It had sparked many an argument between the two of you, and unfortunately, it was going to be the thing to draw your relationship to a close. You knew how important Izuku's job was, not only to him, but to the world. You couldn't be prouder of the man you called your boyfriend. But lately, he'd just been obsessed with it. If he did by some miracle return home before 10 o'clock at night, he'd park himself at the kitchen table and read over paperwork from his work during the day. When you tried to talk to him, he'd shoo you away. After a month and a half of being ignored, you tried to take the matter into your own hands. You thought you knew exactly how to get his attention back. You had put on your favorite oversized blue silk t-shirt and nothing else. Izuku had only been home for a few minutes, so he was just hanging up at the table. You walked down into the kitchen, and sure enough, he was unpacking his work bag onto the table. You walked over to and opened the fridge, pretending to look inside for something to eat. "Hey, Izuku," you said, though you knew he wasn't going to answer. You closed the fridge and turned around to see him bend over the table, examining maps and paper, mumbling to himself quietly. You walked over to him, standing behind him and wrapping your arms around him. "Izuku, baby," you whined quietly into his ear. "Can't you just take a break? For one night. Just for me." He plucked your arms off me, not putting up his eyes from the paper in front of him. "Sorry, not tonight," he said, without a hint of sorrow in his voice. You stood behind him for a moment, heart pounding in your chest. He'd rejected you? "Izuku," he said quietly, "I'm not gonna be the next symbol of peace by laying in bed every day. I have to take action. I can't just sit around while I know other people are suffering out there." You couldn't help but chuckle at his words. "How ironic is that, Midoriya?" You turned and walked out of the kitchen, but paused in the doorway. You want to stop the world suffering, but you don't care about that which you caused. It was only a few days after that Izuku had told you he'd booked you a weekend getaway in Tokyo. You'd made him promise not to bring any work with him, not even his costume. He'd very reluctantly agreed, and a couple of weeks later, you found yourself in Tokyo. The morning after you arrived, you noticed that you woke up alone in your bed. You sighed, but figured it was probably in the bathroom, so you sat up and checked your phone. "Run out to get us some breakfast. Be back soon." You couldn't help but smile at the sweet gesture. You wanted so badly to believe that he wasn't lying to you, so you did. You returned over an hour later with a grocery bag in hand. "Sorry, I got a little lost," he said as he put the bag down onto the table. You checked the time of his message, and it'd been gone for almost 3 hours. But you didn't want to ask about it. You didn't want to know. You wanted to enjoy these couple of days. You wanted to believe he wouldn't lie to you. The following morning, you and Izuku were out walking the street when they saw the newspaper. Your heart flared with so many emotions: hurt, anger, sadness, but most of all, disappointment. It proven to you that he couldn't be honest with you, and he couldn't even put the work down for a weekend. You knew how important his job was, but you wanted to be happy too. Being ignored on a daily basis wasn't the life you wanted to live, even if its motives were good at their core. You'd excuse yourself to run to a bathroom, but had instead purchased a copy of the newspaper and stored it into your bag. You didn't want to make a scene in public, so you'd confront him when you got back to the room. When you returned to him, you were bunched over and had a hand on your stomach to feign stomachache. "Oh, baby, I don't feel so good," you whined. He nodded and wrapped his arms around you. "Oh, let's get you back to the hotel then." He led you back to the hotel and you debated your next course of action. You had to confront him about it. You couldn't just let this betrayal go. You didn't want to leave Izuku, but did you really have a choice? Once you were in your hotel room, you sat down on the edge of your bed and looked at your hands in your laps. "You lied," you said quietly, not able to bring yourself to look at him. "Yesterday, you lied." He was silent for a moment. You looked up, expecting him to not answer, but saw him staring at you with wide green eyes. Listener, save it," you said as you stood up from the bed. You pulled a newspaper from your bag and threw it onto the bed. "You lied to me." He sighed. "I wasn't gonna actually do anything unless they needed my help. But I don't care!" You felt incredibly selfish, but you allowed yourself this one indulgence. You knew you deserved better than a man who lied to you and ignored you constantly. You had asked for 3 days of his time, and he couldn't grant that to you. "I needed your help too. I needed your help to believe there was still a future for this relationship." His eyes widened even more. He took a step towards you and reached to hold your hands, but you yanked yourself away. "I'm so sorry. I promise I'll be better from now on." You couldn't help yourself. You laughed. "You promise. You promise." You reached onto the bed and grabbed the newspaper again. "You promised me this weekend, Izuku. You broke that promises. How the hell am I supposed to trust you again?" "I'll make it up to you," he said with a pleading voice. "Once I get more time off to work." "Time off?" Your eyes were wider than ever before. "You need to not be working to spend time with me. How about every fucking night when you get home, Izuku? How about all those nights you ignored me as you sat at that kitchen table staring at maps and pictures?" His light eyes darkened as he said, "I'm doing important work." "I know that," you said. You turned away from him and climbed over the bed to where you opened the suitcase. Most of your clothes still folded neatly inside. "We're leaving. Now!" You reached for the shirt you had worn the day before, prepared to just wash it when you got home, but he grabbed your wrist. "Don't do this," he begged. It was then you realized there were tears streaming down your face, but none on his. "Listener, I want to apologize for trying to be the best hero I can be, but I would apologize for going about it wrong." "Wrong?" You pulled your arm away from him. "That's how you got there." "You promised, and you lied!" Your fury was evident in your voice as you tried to keep from scratching at your boyfriend. Your broken heart was beating out of your chest, fist tightly clutched in the newspaper again. You made up your mind, unfortunately. You knew Izuku was just trying to help others, but you both deserved to be happy. For him, it meant becoming the new symbol of peace. For you, it meant leaving that relationship. "When we get home, I'm moving out," you said as you shoved your dirty clothes into the suitcase. You marched over to the bathroom and began to collect your toiletry in your arms. "You can do all the hero work you want and just forget about me, just like you've been doing." You stormed into the bathroom behind you. "I can't just forget you. That's not how it works." "Well, you've been doing that pretty easily." You pushed past him and dumped all the items into your suitcase, wiping the tears from your eyes. "I'm ready to leave, Midoriya. Pack your bags while I call a cab." You went back into the bathroom, slamming and locking the door behind yourself as you called the local taxi company. Your heart broke as you dialed the number. But you had to believe you were doing this for the right. You were doing the right thing. You loved Izuku, but you couldn't put yourself through this for him. After a call with the taxi company, you put your ear to the door and listened to Izuku moving around. That's when you finally heard the sobbing.